Hello, and thank you for tuning in. I am Precious Swain Peaks, owner of Swain Girl Media, author, speaker, and tonight we are going to discuss the truth of being an author. We're going to share a little where we hope that you grow from it, and we're going to hop right in. Mrs. Churchwell, can you introduce yourself to the
Um,
audience?
hel- Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda Churchwell, and I am the system solutionist and founder of the Business Assistance Group. I help women entrepreneurs create back end solutions so that they can take the hassle out of the hustle, make more money, and have more free time. I help them create standard operating procedures and implement systems so they can streamline their operations and maximize their profits. I like to say my clients get the bag to help them secure their bag.
Okay, awesome. And Lady Tiffany, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm your girl, your homie, your sister from around the way, Lady Tiffany Nicole. I am a Kingdom media personality as well as an author and international speaker as well. And I am glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Mrs. Tillery, could you introduce yourself?
Good evening. I am Gwen Goolsby Tillery, the CEO of Success Arise. I'm an award winning and best selling Amazon author, and my goal is to help women move from stuck to unstoppable.
Awesome. Now that is awesome. And Dr. Barbara, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Dr. Barbara Whitehead, and I am an author and CEO and executive producer of Kingdom International TV. I'm also the CEO of Kingdom Publications and the owner of 3D Destiny Coaching.org. And my desire and my mission is to encourage others to crush self-limiting beliefs and walk on the pathway of their purpose.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So I am very honored to be here with such women, each with an amazing goal and a great purpose. Our first question of the evening. Oh, hold on 1 second. Hello, Mrs. Bell.
Hi there, how y'all doing?
Awesome. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I sure will. I have so many familiar, pretty faces here as well. My name is Tiffany Bell. I'm very excited to be here. I'm coming from Gulfport, Mississippi. I help nonprofit founders, individuals that run nonprofits grow their nonprofits. And again, just very excited to be here with you guys tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And these ladies have all gone through the act of becoming a published author. It has not been easy. Our first question of the evening is, what was the hardest part for you in the process of getting published? And I'm going to go ahead and go clockwise and start with Mrs. Churchwell.
Hello. I forgot to say when I introduced myself, I am also a best-selling author. I think the hardest part for me was in being part of an anthology was understanding the dynamics of it and how to make sure that you get the book out there.
Mhm.
It's very hard sometimes because everybody wants to go to Amazon, but you want people to come directly to you when
Mhm.
you're a part of an anthology. So you have to make sure that you create opportunities and get yourself out there. So I've had a book release party with one, I've created a platform around another, but you just have to be creative and make sure that you are showing up to the people who love and support you so that they will purchase the book directly from you.
Thank you so much. Lady Tiffany,
Yes, read that question one more time, please.
the question was, oh, now I forgot the question. How difficult was it for you to get through the process to be published?
Oh, actually, since I wasn't self-published, I did have a publisher. But I think the hardest part for me was, as Lady Yolanda said, coming up with a marketing strategy to get it out, especially with your first one, and getting past the jitters of if it'd be purchased, how would they receive it. That was the hardest part for me, the marketing strategy. and coming up with the ways to get it out, and the jitters, the nervousness of if the book would sell.
Awesome answer. Dr. Barbara?
Yes, I think one of the first challenges that I had to overcome was to gather the people who would walk into this vision. And that was the, especially with the prayers of Black and Brown mothers. I was seeking for those individuals who would come along beside me and walk in this vision. After we were able to pull it together, and I am self-published, then the next challenge really was the marketing strategy. I think that is probably a commonality, because once you get through all of the various tasks of actually getting your book from an idea to a publication, then you've got to get it out. So bringing the people together and the marketing strategy, I agree, was a challenge indeed.
Okay, thank you so much. And Mrs. Tillery?
So the most challenging part for me, to be honest, was deciding how much I wanted to share of my story. My first book is entitled Finding Purpose in Your Pain, Moving from Tragedy to Triumph. And it basically outlines, a portion of my life where I went through a lot. So for me, it was finding a balance of being real and authentic, but not sharing too much. So that was a real struggle for me, especially being a first-time author and, still trying to learn the process, at the same time trying to figure out how much of my short story I really wanted to share.
Now I can identify with that. And Dr. Bell?
So for me, so as a author, my struggle was initially coming in. It was really just being on someone else's timeline, right? So I've come in and I've been a part of an anthology when there's another visionary, right? And you're underneath there, you're trying to follow the process and you're trying to learn the process. I've also done it to where I have been the visionary, right? And then I've had an outside publisher, but then I've also done it where I have been the publisher and the visionary. And what I've learned, that no matter what, no matter where you're at in that timeline, the struggle for me is just realizing that, again, no matter where you're positioned, you're always going to be waiting for someone else to do their part in that. And so because of that, you just got to be flexible in dealing with the setbacks. Again, whether you're an author, the publisher, or the visionary, right? You have life just happens. And so I started initially back in 2020, I think was the first time that I actually tried on my own, as far as just being the visionary versus being a part of another anthology. And again, there have been setbacks and reversals of the timeline. Things speed up, they slow down, and having to be patient with the process is not something I can say that has been a strong suit of mine, but it's something I've just had to learn to just deal with and be like, all right, it's outside of my control. Just do what you can, and what you can't do, you can't do, and just trust the process.
Exactly. Now, I will say that I can really relate with Mrs. Tillery and Dr. Bell because my first book, it was just me. There was nobody else's timeline. There was nothing else. I wrote my book. I released my book. And my obstacles was like Mrs. Tillery. How much do I tell? What are people going to think when I tell this? How am I going to feel after I get the feedback from releasing this? Where am I in all of this? And that was really my hardest part. But then when I was invited to be in an anthology, it was harder for me because I had did it on my own already. And I'm not understanding this other person's way of thinking, their guidelines, their rules, how many words they want. I mean, I understood it. I mean, I wasn't slow, but it's not vibing well for me. And so my biggest obstacle with the anthology was following somebody else's rules. I just didn't think I should have to because I had did this once already. And so you learn to kind of work well with others in those cases. But in my own personal, in the series that I have, the biggest thing is, how will people look at me after they've read this story? And so it was really, that was my biggest obstacle. Now, before our next question, I have a quick question for Lady Tiffany. Lady Tiffany, do you, well, how hard was it for you to find a publisher? What was that process like?
Well, actually, she was God sent. Um, my process of writing the book, well, actually, the book, my first book that I did was an anthology, but God did tell me years before that I was going to write a book, and I was like, "Who, me, Arthur? I can't." So when we revisited that, I kind of cheated a little bit and was like, "Well, I don't want to do this for the first time by myself." But there was a young lady on Facebook that I had met through a mutual friend and found out she was a publisher, and I had watched her for a while. And when I finally decided to move forward, I actually reached out to one person and they didn't respond back. I text someone and they didn't respond back. So I'm sitting with this idea, and the person popped up on my Facebook with the promotion about, helping someone with the book and things and being the publisher. And since I had been with her for a while or communicated with her, had some type of relationship with her on Facebook wise, I connected, reached out and had the consultation, and it worked just fine. And the people that were a part of my anthology, most people do an ask, they put out a profile and Facebook and announcement, hey, I'm looking for authors. In this particular case, I was very strategic. It was for my nonprofit organization. And so there was some ladies that God already had in mind, and I reached out to them directly, shared with them the vision we had at our meeting, and it blossomed from there. And they were all except for two were first time authors, and we did amazingly well. But the publisher walked us through it. It was a healing process for us all. So the journey of it was great, and I thank God He chose her. So I'm very spiritual. I don't do anything just to be doing anything. I'm extremely strategic because I want the success of God. And so, with that being said, that's how it happened for me. I didn't know any publishers off the bat. She was chosen, and I went through the process, and it worked out just fine.
Okay. And that is really a good thing, because I haven't worked with a publisher, but I hear a lot of people write their manuscript, send it off to the different publishing companies, wait for a response if it's something they want to carry. And so I was just trying to see, for those in the audience listening, how difficult that portion of the process was. But your process went a little different than that. The next question that I'm going to ask is, what was your marketing like? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reverse my clock, and I'm going to start with Dr. Bell and work my way around. But how hard did you find it to market your book?
Well, let's see, I've done it a few times, and each time I've tried a different strategy. So I'm going to start with the one that we currently have out, which is a affirmation journal. So the strategy that I'm going to use for that one really is I'm tying it to a membership. So my Black Friday release will be a membership. Like, people will have an opportunity. I'll use it as a lead magnet. That's going to lead into a membership. From there, it'll lead into an event, right? So, the goal is not so much to sell copies of the book for money, but my goal really is to be able to make connections with people so that I will have an opportunity then to work with them based upon what really my true heart is as far as the content is concerned, that will lead into larger opportunities for both them and for myself. Now, with the very first time I did an anthology, I did an anthology with Dorothy Wilson, maybe like 6 years ago, and I didn't have a marketing strategy. All I did was buy 10 books from her and then ask my friends to buy from me. That's all. That's all I did. And I can't say that I remember there being a solid marketing strategy presented to me, and I probably just did not, I just didn't connect. I didn't understand. Where now, if I were going to do this, I realized that there's multiple stages of the marketing, and you got to start and build to with a larger goal in mind. It's not so much about simply filling the book anymore. The book is just a lead magnet for me, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay. And I'm familiar with your events, so I can understand that method for you because you guys have phenomenal events. Like thousands of people pour in for you guys' events. So that process makes sense to me. Um, Mrs. Tillery.
So I think when you're writing your book, you need to first ask yourself, what's the goal? Like Tiffany just said, what is the goal and the intent of you writing the book? Is it to make yourself look like an expert? Is it because, for me, the first one, I was being obedient to God and honestly didn't really have much of a marketing strategy? So it really is dependent upon what your goal is. For me, for my first book, I really didn't have a goal necessarily other than pleasing God, putting the book out there that my story might encourage somebody else. Although I was strategic, like Lady Tiffany said, I'm strategic in everything that I do. And so when I realized, okay, I'm going to really put this out there, I started thinking about all the ways that I was going to put myself in front of people to sell the book. I know the power of social media, but this was back in 2018 when I released the book. And so social media has changed quite a bit since then. I knew for me that if I got myself in front of people, my book would sell. And so I did extremely well with that book. I did of course, I did a book release. Over 100 copies at the book. I don't have a background in marketing, but I'm pretty familiar with marketing. So I quickly learned who would be interested in this book. And I realized it would be Christian women of a certain age. So I made sure that I was constantly out vending and in those environments. And when I put myself in those environments, my book sold without any issues or problems at all. Now, the last book that I put out, which was an anthology that I was the visionary for, as well as the publisher for, I once again was very strategic. And actually, Tiffany was a part of that. I was very strategic in how I did that. I made sure that we started doing a countdown. I did interviews on my show. Tiffany arranged for interviews on other shows. And then we did a whole pre-sale with the book. And then even after the book actually went into sales, we were still doing marketing. Since it was an anthology, I had individuals with their pictures and like little captions from the book. So it was very strategic. And of course, as an anthology, then everyone gets to do what they need to do with the book. But everyone has done well with it, I would say that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Barbara.
Yes, I have experienced marketing from various aspects, and so from being with a very experienced publisher and just really relying on their instructions and what to do was my first experience with the marketing strategy that included television. Opportunities, radio opportunities, social media, graphics, flyers, promos, all of the things that would make a very good marketing strategy. So my first experience with marketing came with a prayer journal that I did, and that was very laid out and structured and was very successful, including a book launch and book signings that followed the book launch. And so those things were very instrumental in getting the visibility that was needed. There were small book signings as well. So it was from the initial overall large book launch. And then we followed that up with several other book signings with family and friend and supporters to give visibility at various levels. And then I've also been involved with marketing strategies that were more grassroots movements with the co-authors in the anthologies, and kind of just followed the book launch with the way that they wanted to present themselves in their communities and with their support. And we were able to share graphics with them, and I'm still working with going through some of the book signings for each of the co-authors. So I've been in a solo project, and the marketing then was surrounded by just the like I said, the television interviews, and that's local community news, as well as getting into the places where people were interested in what the book was about. One of my books, Making Destiny Driven Decisions, was designed to supplement my coaching process. And so that book had a whole different kind of marketing strategy, because it was offered to support the process of coaching. And so I've been able to experience marketing from various perspectives, and to identify from the purpose of that book, and from the plans that I have for moving forward, what would be the most appropriate strategy for that particular book. And so it's been very educational for me. I found that there are a lot of resources, a lot of people who will help you, and that you cannot get distracted by those who don't understand your process. Keep moving and make sure that your strategy is working for what it is that you are trying to accomplish.
Very true. Thank you so much. Lady Tiffany?
This is a very timely question, because my Facebook memories popped up today. And today is when I started the marketing of my first anthology a year ago. It was released my birthday in December of 2021. Memoirs of a Modern Proverbs Woman, Becoming Virtuous and Victorious. So the marketing strategy was to create the hype that, hey, something's coming. Me and the 11 ladies, we were 12 disciples, if you will. And the main marketing strategy was not to make it too big. Nothing against anyone that has 30 or 40 authors. I've supported anthologies because of some friends or some girlfriends being a part of the anthology. But my experience was I never really read all the stories. And I'm sure there are some amazing stories in there of some amazing women. But the way I read, I just can't sit still and read 30, 40 stories, even over time. It's going to be read a couple of times, and then the next thing I know, it's on my bookshelf like you have behind you, Miss Precious. So I wanted a book that would not only be read but captivating. And so the main strategy was how many people in the book, and my target audience of readers, would it be read? I wanted the stories to mean something, and I wanted to minister to the ladies and share these ordinary stories. So my first strategy, marketing strategy, was just not to have it too big. No one wants to read my personal, but just didn't want an encyclopedia of stories. I wanted it to be read, and I wanted it to be impactful. So that was the first marketing strategy. Secondly, was to create the buzz. We had worked behind the scenes, if you will. I never told anybody. I had non-disclosure agreements written for the book because I didn't want to contaminate. We were already first-time authors. Some of these ladies were concerned about their stories. And if you will, we experience some type of spiritual warfare where we're writing books and telling our stories. It's already an internal issue. So I had non-disclosure agreements written. Don't talk about it. When it's time to communicate what we're doing, We'll do it a part of the marketing strategy. So this day a year ago is when we sowed the seed. Get ready. A book is coming. I'm going to be an author. And that created a buzz like, what? You're writing a book? What? This is going to be good. I also learned from being connected to Success Women Conference and another with Tiffany D. Bell and the ladies, being connected to some women where we all supported with the first day launch and getting the sales, the marketing strategy of how much will the digital book cost. They're strategic too. You know, the 99 cents is it $1.99? Is it $2.99? And for those of us that's dealt with Amazon, which is where a majority of us have released our books on, that is strategic as well because of the profit margin from what you put the price as and etc. So being a part, watching and gleaning and learning from those that have gone before me. And last but not least, learning that the marketing strategy don't stop when you first release a book. We get excited and get the accolades, 7 times bestseller, and the next thing is gone. The stories still speak. So my marketing strategy has been, I now have a publicist. We rotate the books. So take advantage of the Amazon monthly, deposit that you get from selling the books. You got to continue to market. You can't just stop when you release it, get your accolades, and say, okay, because you got a box of books to sell. So signing up to be vendors. I own a radio station and have a radio show, so I market it there. I'm also vending and getting the word out again, and starting it. But my revelation came when I was having a hard month of money, and I was like, okay, what I got to do to get some money? And I looked to the left, and the Holy Spirit was like, girl, you got $400 in this box right here. What is wrong with you? Sell your books. So a continuous marketing strategy to continue to sell the book. Your story is still breathing and living. So those are my tips for marketing strategy.
Awesome. And Mrs. Churchwell.
Well, first I'll say I agree with what everyone has said before me. I think that it plays a big role in whether this is going to have a Amazon's bestseller campaign versus if it doesn't and how you're going to market. I do a lot more in terms of countdowns and building the anticipation for that day when it's released digitally on Amazon and those things when you have that bestseller campaign. Like Tiffany said, I've built mine around my coaching platform. I built them around what I do. The first one that I did, that was more of a personal thing. That was the one I just had a big family event. It was like, this is not my debut. Everybody was just excited. I made it a winter wonderland theme. So it was just a lot of fun. But the other ones that I have done, those have all been related to what I do as a business coach, as a business consultant. And so I tie them into different product and service offerings that I'm having at the time.
Okay. Which makes a lot of sense. My experience has been similar, but a little different. I took more traditional advertising, promotional approaches only because it just seemed to make sense for me because I'm sometimey with social media. I might be on 5 days in a row, and then day number 6, I don't want to be bothered. I'm not even fooling with my phone. And so to avoid that impacting me, I used an auto poster, Hootsuite, Hello Woofy, that type thing. I did a lot of email blast because the email blast worked for me when I was working in hip hop. So I figured I might as well try it. It worked with music. I'll try it with books, and programmed it to send out X amount of emails every so many days, leading up into the day that it was released. My husband is an audio video engineer, so of course there were audio and video commercials done for the book, and utilized the commercials on the Roku channel and the Fire Stick channel. But my books are on women's issues, self-heal, learning to heal from the things you've experienced in childhood trauma, the getting back to the Most High for them to lead you through your trauma. And so when I released the book, it really wasn't for money. My goal for the book was never to become a millionaire. It was always to help someone else heal. So I would do a lot of stops at the domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, places where women who needed that type of guidance or help were. And if I had to be 100% transparent, I've given away more than I've sold. And I've sold a nice amount, but I've given away, like, just donated to these types of facilities so that the demographics that was trying to reach were people that needed the message more than I needed the money. And so that was kind of the other aspect I took. If I went to speaking engagements or went to teach classes, that would be the time that I would make sure to have the books on hand to give to help someone out. But those are a lot of really good ways to market. Things that a lot of people don't think about is the text marketing campaigns. They're really not all that expensive. You can set up the number, text book to blah blah, or text heal, text business, text coach to whatever, and send out the link to directly order. There are so many different ways, but this leads into my question that I hope no one takes offensive, but for the sake of this teaching opportunity, what would you recommend a new author to focus on, the message or the money?
Yeah.
The message.
I would definitely say the message for me. The books were never about making a lot of money. I had already heard the stories that I know people who've had bestsellers for the best quarter or something, and they got like a $300 check. So I never expected that. I did the books that I did for the visibility, to get my name out there, to share it. Initially, the first one, like I said, was to just share my story and to get my feet wet. And it was with someone who I didn't expect to do it. It just came about with a very anointed visionary. And I appreciated that because it gave me the courage to move forward. For me, it was more about the visibility, getting to know different people who are business coaches, who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, I feel like, yes, we all have family, we all have friends, but they don't understand what we go through as business owners on a day-to-day basis. My mom is happy for me because I'm happy. She's sad because I'm sad. She doesn't understand what I'm talking about, though, most of the time. But when you are around people like Miss Gwen and Miss Tiffany, they understand what you're going through every day. So for me, it was not only about visibility, getting out there in front of people who may need the gift that God has placed inside of me, but also building my support network so that I have the type of people that I can lean on and that I can encourage so that we can all continue to do this work.
Makes sense.
Yes, I agree with Miss Yolanda. My book, Memoirs of a Modern Proverbs Woman, it was done with my sister friends. These are ladies that they are like my road dogs, as the young folks say, my A1 since day ones. And they all meant something to me. And so every year for my birthday, my birthday's in December. I'm a week before Christmas. Can you imagine? So for my birthday, every year I give back to my friends, or I find a way to celebrate life by giving back. And so this book did that last year. And it was a healing process for us all. Also, each of these ladies, I minister to sisterhood, my nonprofit organization, Modern Proverbs Women. It's to uplift, support, and encourage women through mentorship while promoting sisterhood. So every last one of these ladies knew each other because of me, but they didn't know everybody's story. And all of them had ministered to me. I knew some of the ups and downs. I've prayed with them. I've shown up when the husband died. I've been with Sugar, this and there. And I've been with them individually, but collectively, they all had no clue of how important, how valuable, and how powerful their stories were. So my main reason was to let them know. They see Lady Tiffany Nicole. They see me on radio. They see me running a radio station. They see all of this. And I wanted them to know There's a song that I say, everything played for my radio show, everything attached to me wins. I wanted them to know, y'all looking at me, y'all some bad mama jammas y'all self. You sleeping on yourself. So when they begin to write their story, and when God began to, as we say in the Baptist church, when I think of the goodness, when they started going down memory lane and try to figure out which story to tell, they became delivered, they were healed. And when the stories came out, they healed their cousins, some of their moms, like my mom didn't know some of the stuff that I had went through. It was a healing process for us, but a healing process for the ladies as well. I also wanted to teach them that they could be an author. All of them, I was like, okay, y'all wrote a chapter. Now you know you got a book right. It was strategic, but God used that idea to bless my friends and my sisters, and we became bestsellers together. But it was mainly about healing and us walking through that together, and them realizing that they virtuous and they done went through some stuff. And as a result, people have read our stories. I had someone tag me and finally got the book, and they was like, oh my God, this book. They read it from beginning to end. So when God gave me the strategy of the 12 and what he told me to do, I'm still getting testimonies from that. I got something from Amazon where somebody said something, I don't know who they are. And it wasn't necessarily about the money, because we all know when it does come to Amazon, we don't get a lot of money. But the fact that the ministry of the moment and these ladies' stories was heard and impacted strangers, that was amazing to me. And it was worth the warfare. It was worth the tears. It was worth the frustration of deadlines being missed and met. It was worth the frustration of learning how to work with my publisher. Once I get the stories and the testimonies and the healing from strangers, that's more than any money can buy for me.
Yeah.
So
Dr.
I
Barbara? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, so you got two Tiffany's here. So my other friend, I'll back her up and say, hey, no, I'm Tiff number one. Birthday December 6th. She may be after 16th, so I'm Tiff number one here. But Tiffany Bell, in all seriousness, the past three projects for me, I've done for three different reasons. The very first one I did was for financial purpose. Like, and again, I don't feel bad for saying, hey, I have bills, and I got a teenage son who's a freshman in college, right? And I left my full-time job in the middle of 2021, and I knew that Brandon was going to be graduating from college, right? Graduating from high school. I had college tuition, and I was no longer having that steady income in, so I need to create some type of stream of income. Just knowing down the pipe, I'm still, even though I'm not going into work anymore, the bills are still going to come, right? And so I needed to launch the first time I did a journal. That was the purpose behind that journal. It was specifically in order to be able to create income for myself, right? And then the anthologies that I'd done before, the first time that I worked with a publisher with an anthology, that publisher, I want to say I spent $3,700, something like that. Well, for this journal, someone referred me to a specific publisher who only charged me $700 as a favor, because again, just trying to help me just get out there and create, some income for myself. So I was like, oh man, I went from having to pay, like $4,000 nearly. I'm sure there were some other things. At the end of the day, I paid around $4,000 with some other things I ended up doing as far as the marketing part for that first anthology, where I was the visionary to here. I'm like, okay, it's only going to be $700 is my cost. The people that participated, $97 for them to come in. So after my seventh person, everything after that technically, went towards my profit. So for me, that was an easy way for me to generate income. And because it was only $97, I'm sure all of you guys have probably participated or seen anthologies when you go in and you participate. If you catch one for $450, you've done well, right? I've seen them $1,600 to be a part of an anthology project. So to be able to come and not only create income for myself, but then give other people an opportunity to be part of something and it be low cost for them, right? So I feel like I've given opportunities for others. I've created opportunities for myself. I've provided a stream of income in order to be able to, fuel and feed my family, literally, right? But at the same time, gain the visibility that we all need when you do an anthology. The thing I love it was that, when the tide rise, all ships rise together. Their audience becomes my audience. My audience, I'm able to share with them. We all grow as a result of that, right? And the growth is not just the financial growth. The growth is not just in visibility, but then the growth too, depending upon where your heart is at. And I do mainly Christian focused items. There is spiritual growth that happens within that, and just having that first time opportunity for the newcomers and being able to make connections with people they never would have had an opportunity to meet. Just having people from around the globe in one collaboration, that within itself is an experience as well. So, I think that, for that first one, it was definitely, I needed income, right? But for the last one I've done, that was just like, I've done it a couple times. I understand it. The focus was not so much on money, but I've also seen myself to be able to grow and be able to, attack it a totally different way. So, I think that for each person, like, you meet people where they're at, and there's a different need from one author to the next author, but there is no, I personally don't think that there's any, like, what the laborer is worth there, the laborer is worth the pay. Like, you should get paid for the thing that you do, and don't feel bad about that. Mind you, when the Lord tells you to give, you give. But when he tells you to work and to sow, you give, you work, you sow, you reap. And that's okay. It's just, be okay with that. No matter where no matter where you land at on it, it's okay. It's really the motive on the heart behind it. And, just having sincere needs and being able to meet the need and give at the same time, help others to meet their needs as well.
Very, very true. Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true. Um, Dr. Barbara, Ms. Tillery, either one of you want to chime in on this topic?
Yes, I would like to. I am a firm believer that our gift should make room for us, and it
Mhm.
should make room for us in various aspects. I did find that the book writing process was a very cathartic process and helped me to heal, even as I helped others to heal. But it was also an entrepreneurial project, and it required investing money as well as receiving money. Money is important, and so I think that as we take a balanced look and have the perspective that we're not naive, and we understand that we have the opportunity to bless others, and with the various projects that I have been on, from doing ghost writing to being a compiling author, to being a sole author. All of that allowed me to see the process from different perspectives. I was able to work with one of my authors, who then transitioned into the coaching program because she was able to experience a release of some things that had been holding her and captivating her from being her very best self. So all of these things that we have opportunity to do, even to be an entrepreneur, is a teaching process for others, because as you began writing your book, now you not only have a book that you've authored or co-authored, now you have a product that you can sell, that takes us into a whole different perspective. And so all of that is empowering, and I think that is what we are looking at, is the various ways that we empower ourselves and empower others with the experience that we offer. My book, The Prayers of Black and Brown Mothers, was an opportunity for me to give voice and visibility to mothers who were praying but had no platform to give relevance to their prayers. And this was an opportunity to do so. My authors were very unlikely authors. They stepped outside of the belief that they could not do it and became courageous enough to do it. And now they're being celebrated. So I'm excited about the empowering moment that they are experiencing now, because they decided to be authors, co-authors, and now they are being known in ways that they would have not been known if they had not decided to invest in themselves, and consequently invest in others who would be influenced by them.
Very true, Dr. Barbara. Mrs. Tillery, did you want to add anything to that?
Not much. I kind of agree. I mean, I absolutely agree with everyone and what they've said so far. I would say that for me, it has always been primarily about the message first. I believe that if you're authentic with the message, the money will follow. So for me, the first priority is to be authentic with the message, is to make sure that the message gets out there. For the last anthology, my first anthology that I was the visionary for, I had multiple goals, and it was not necessarily to go and make a lot of money. One of my goals was to become a bestseller. So there was not necessarily money attached to that, but there's something else that comes attached to it. As someone who helps people with writing and publishing, I know for many that's important. So I was strategic in making sure that I put together a strategy to make that happen. But more importantly, like Lady Tiffany, I handpicked my authors. I prayed and I asked God to give me exactly who it was that was supposed to be in that book. The title of the book is Through the Fire, Stories of Strength, Courage, and Resilience. And the book just recently was released, and I just really felt a need to put something out there, especially after all we've been through with COVID and so many losses, that people needed to hear stories of strength and resilience, and that even though they may feel like, they're in the fire, how are they going to get out, that there is going through, that you're not going to stay in it. So for me, the message and the people who were in it were primary. And I didn't charge a lot because, again, I told Tiffany, I said, because these are people who God said their story needs to be in the book. It wasn't about necessarily bringing in the money in that instance. It was really about making sure that these stories got out. And I knew exactly what kind of stories I wanted to get out. So again, it really depends on what the goal of the book is. The next one I do, I'm be honest, it might be more based on the money. Now, the message is always going to be important for me because my goal is to move people from stuck to unstoppable. But, it really is dependent. But I feel like your message should always be important because when people pick up that book and read it, people know whether you're being authentic or not. They want the real story. Because most of the people on this platform have published based on their stories, their personal lives, things that they've gone through. And the one thing that I got consistently from this last book was, I can't believe how honest everyone was. And it literally has changed my life. So the message is important.
Thank you so much. Now, I agree that the message is 100% probably for me the most important portion. But here's my but. My reason for writing would make it that way. It's the whole series is testimonial. The whole series is designed to help that young woman that's been molested, that young woman that had an addicted parent. It is designed for ministry outside of the pulpit. That, I will be 100% honest and say, is really the main reason that money was not the focus. But I will also be transparent and say my journals, my planners, my things of that nature, it's about the money with those. There is no message in there other than what the date is. It's about the money. So for anyone watching, considering being an author or considering doing your next project, the purpose of this question is so that you can hear from us who all have books or are in an anthology or both. The money is good. The message is the most important thing. If I can be transparent, I don't know how many other people on the stage have experienced this. I had good sales, but seller did not mean millionaire for me. So I appreciated an Amazon bestseller stamp, but my goal was not an Amazon bestseller stamp. I'm thankful for it and appreciative. But if someone was to say, what was your goal other than empowering other people, if I was going to go for a bestseller, it would probably be the New York bestseller stamp, because normally that one has a check that goes with it. And I'm just being honest. What is the rest of you guys' take on that?
Well,
So for me, as it relates, are you talking specifically about bestseller status?
Not really just the bestseller status portion, but being transparent kind of with which one, because a lot of people think when they see bestseller, they see check.
Absolutely.
And so their goal is bestseller because they think that's the check. And I'm trying to educate them transparently into not being, don't think because you done told 100 people to download it for free by this certain time to get that stamp, that's going to equate a check. So,
and I think that's the key, is that people don't really understand what that process looks like and what's involved in it and what it really means. Again, honestly, for me, being a bestseller does not necessarily, it's nice, it does not necessarily mean a lot, but I know for people who want to publish their books, they're going to want to know, well, are you a bestseller? Because I want to be a bestseller. So if you can't do it for yourself, how are you going to help me do it? So this is where the money comes into play for me. So if I'm going to say I can help you publish your book, I want to be able to say, well, I can help you achieve the status if that's something you want to do, because I've achieved it. So that's why it was important for me. But in terms of the financial reward because of it, absolutely not. To be honest, there was no financial reward because of it. Because as someone said, selling it for 99 cents, $1.99 or $2.99, even if you sold 1,000 of them, is not going to make you rich.
No, it is sure not going to make you rich. I think it's interesting that I've never really thought of the Amazon bestseller. I never even thought that people perceive that as being money. To me, that's title, it's status. And I think people like seeing their names in lights, right? And so that Amazon bestseller status to me, I've always just thought that, hey, that's for people that, no harm against anybody out there that has that title and celebrates it. Hey, you did what you need to do in order to get it, and so I celebrate you, right? But to me, when I see that, I think people think really more. It's a title, it's a status, it's an accomplishment, and when I put it in the most glowing terms, it's an accomplishment, something that should be celebrated. But when you've done it 1 or 2 times, it loses its glory with everything. When you buy that new purse, right? You buy those new shoes. When you first get it, you're like, oh, I love it, but it's going to be another purse, going to be another pair of shoes. Those things are going to end up in the back of the closet. You're going to end up at Goodwill eventually. The book will be right here on the bookshelf for now, but eventually it's going to be in a box somewhere in the closet. You know what I'm saying? Like with all of our other shiny toys that we come across throughout life, right? You move from one title, from one status, from one season of life into the next season of life. And so, it has its purpose, and while you're able to celebrate it. But, it's not the end of all, but it's just another shiny object when it comes to visibility. But again, it's really about what is the end goal. What is your goal? So that's just temporary.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to say, on the outside looking in, when I first started connecting and helping people get Amazon bestseller, I was like, man, that's hot. But then when I did the book and I got behind the scenes and realized that you could really be an Amazon bestseller in a certain category. No, I'm with Tiffany. I'm not trying to suck and shine, but you could sell like 12 books in a particular category and be bestseller. And I was like, y'all had bamboo with me. I thought y'all had to really so, you know what I'm saying? Because when you hear bestseller, and I think it's great for Amazon, but for me as a publisher, I want my book in Barnes and Nobles. I hadn't been able to figure that out. I would love for the book to be in New York bestsellers list and to get out further than Amazon. And unfortunately, the publisher that I have, and trying to research how to do that,
Yeah, but I don't.
it's hard to find how to get this book at Barnes and Nobles to be a bigger impact, but to possibly where a bestseller could mean like dollars and cents. So it's kind of hard in the circles that we're in, which is why I'm fighting. I love everybody, but I'm fighting to get outside of the common circle. I have digital downloads that I have never read simply to be a blessing to help somebody get to Amazon bestseller. And I will continue to do so. But I would love to see our book, even if it's number 45 on New York bestsellers list, even if it's number 30 on Barnes and Nobles. That's my heart's desire because I still want to make a bigger impact outside of the circle and outside of Amazon. But it's hard to find that type of publisher or that type of visibility where it will translate to dollars and cents. And but I'm sure it will cost more on the publisher end to invest more. But I believe I'm willing to do that investment for these stores to get somewhere and to really get the notoriety. Notoriety again. Amazon bestseller is the bomb.com, and it does feel good to be like we did it. But once I learned behind the scenes what that meant, it just doused my candle. My flame, my flicker on my candle went down just a little bit, but it was still cool as a thing. It was still cool.
Well, Lady Tiffany, no offense to your publisher, but if you want to know how to get on Barnes and Noble, message me direct outside of the chat. I'll tell you how to get there.
Glory to God. You'll do it if you said if you ask.
You know,
Come on,
um,
Jesus.
I mean, we don't have limitations. Right
Absolutely.
now, I release and I self-publish Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Google Play. The only thing I'm not doing right now is iBooks, and that's because I use a Windows machine and not a MacBook. And that's really what's limiting me from releasing on iBooks. But I can tell you how to do it. That's not.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. So you never know what you'll learn on a discussion like this. Um,
We're gonna get
I
all kinds
want.
of calls on Monday morning.
Okay. Listen, it's 3 minutes to 9, and I want to be very respectful of you guys' time. I thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your Sunday evening when you could be resting to participate in this discussion. Does anyone have anything they want to share?
I would like to share something.
Mhm.
I just want to encourage people who have it on their hearts to share their story, to tell their story, to not be afraid. There's somebody out there that is waiting to hear your story.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is literally waiting to be heard by someone, and that story is going to change someone's life. It's going to let them know that whatever it is they're facing, that they're not the only ones facing it. It's going to let them know that even though they're facing it, that they're going to be able to get through it, and it's going to give them hope. So I just encourage you, whether you self-publish, whether you go with a publisher, whether you go for the goal of being an Amazon bestseller or not, that at the end of the day, that you just share your story because someone's waiting to hear it.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything to share?
I
I
just
get
like to,
over there. Go ahead.
yeah, I just like to say that learning the power of our influence is so so precious because it matters that we understand that our message is important. It matters that we understand that our gift is important. And it matters that we understand that our story is important. And our influence can literally help others to shift into their next level and get outside of mediocrity and have the courage to explore all that is within them to be their very best selves. And so I'm just glad to be a part of this panel of discussion and to be here with people, and I say this term, of precious like faith, who are able to share with one another our experiences and be empowered by it. But not only that, to empower others to know that there is a next level, and let's go there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to share that fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
False evidence appearing real. It's your imagination. Conquer your
Mhm.
fear today. Myself and these five other ladies on this panel is evidence that fear does not live here. What you think will happen, that you think your story doesn't matter, it does. We have all impacted, had a power of influence, a circle of women in our
Mhm.
area, simply because we conquered our fear and told our story. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lie from the enemy. You are
Mhm.
powerful, you are influential, your story matters. God bless.
Anybody else want to share? Mrs. Churchwell, Dr. Bell?
I think if I were to say anything, I would encourage, anybody that's out there, if you're considering writing your story, don't wait. I think for me, I remember the first time that I decided to actually launch out and do an anthology, as a visionary versus being underneath someone else's vision. Um, I did it. I remember just kind of having a heaviness on me one morning. It was the Lord was like, "You need to move. You need to move now." Like the grace is there for you. And I was just waiting, 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 waiting. And I remember that morning feeling like, I felt like he was like, if you don't move now, the grace that I have for you to be able to get it done, that window's going to close out of your disobedience. Like I think that, just as kids, you've waited, we've learned, we've been taught to wait, right? We've been taught to wait until somebody picks you, right? And I think that, from kindergarten, you wait in line and you wait in line for lunch, you're waiting for them to pick you to play in their team, you're playing double dutch, and so you wait for that great opportunity to finally jump in there so you don't miss and hit the ropes, whatever. Don't wait for everything to line up just perfectly. Just begin to take the first step. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. When you move, the grace will be there and doors will open up, as they're needed, and you don't have to have a perfect plan at the very beginning. Just be willing to kind of move in that direction, and you'll be very surprised at how things just come together for you in the end. So that would be the one thing that I would want to share.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
I think the thing that I would like to share is that at the end of the day, as with everything else, your motives will determine your results and your
Mm-hmm.
success. If you're doing it for the right reasons, I told my story because it was something that I needed to do on my journey of healing. I shared my story in other anthologies because it's part of my purpose. It's part of what I do as Yolanda Churchwell, CEO of The Bag, because I am working to make sure that when I get to see Jesus, he doesn't ask me, why didn't you do what I told you to do? So as long as you're doing it with a pure heart, I don't see anything wrong if you feel like you want to do it. I've known since I was a little girl. I love to read books. I've always been told I'm going to write a book. And so I feel like for me, doing the anthologies was allowing me to stick my toe in the pond and kind of get a sense of what that's going to be like. It helped me to grow my confidence and encourage myself so that I do know what goes into it. I do know a little bit more about it. And so I'll be able to make wiser decisions when it's me on my own. But I'm also a licensed CPA and an accountant. So I tell people all the time, don't do things because of money. Money is a number. So don't do things for Amazon's bestseller, New York bestseller. Don't do things for money because at the end of the day, those are numbers and numbers are infinite. Infinite. You will always be chasing a number. But if you do it because you feel that that's what God called you to do, if you feel it because that brings you joy or some other reason that you do it that is not related to monetary gain nor in Instagram, social media fame, then the results will be there. Just knowing that when I had my book launch party and there were 3 women there who were reading my story, they couldn't even wait until they got home to read my part of the story. And they came up to me and 2 said, I didn't know you went through that. And 1 said, you blessed me. That right there, I don't even, honestly, I don't care about the check. That part right there, knowing that somebody somewhere was touched and is able to get out of a situation that they shouldn't be in, or somebody is able to know that I'm available and I'm able to take one business from failing to scaling. That's all that matters.
Ooh, I like that title, From Failing to Scaling. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Yeah. Yes. And so I'm just so honored that you guys accepted the invite and came and helped me to help others, because that's what it was all about. I thank you so much for your transparency and your openness. I thank you for telling your stories, because now your stories are out there and someone can realize that they can do, or they can make it, or they can overcome it, or whatever the scenario is. I thank you definitely, Mrs. Churchwell, because I am also an accountant, and there's not a lot of us in the industry. And so to be open with it and putting it out there in a book, because I'll be honest, I don't write from that perspective, from the business perspective, even though I have been feeling really pressured lately that I should, because of some of the things that's going on. I only have one release, and that's Basic Business Structure, that I have actually written so far, which will probably change. But I applaud what you are pushing, because it is needed. Um, I wish you guys much success and many, many blessings, that the hands of the Most High remain upon you and continue to push you. I thank you so much, Dr. Bell, for hearing my cry for help and not only coming on, but bringing others with you. That is so appreciated. And when you just said your son was in college, that let me know how long it's been since we talked, because he was still at home in high school last time we had a discussion. So we got to do better at keeping up with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Barbara, I have Black and Brown Mothers, and I think I have the one right after it. And you reach for a place that leads people to the throne. And testimonials are good. Teaching people to heal is good. But sometimes we need to show people that the bishop, the pastor, the elder can't get you that one-on-one relationship. You have to go to the throne. And so I applaud that. Because again, I haven't gotten that bold in my writing. My writing tells them they need to go there, but not in the same capacity. And based on us all having a story to release, at some point we have all been broken. So I am so glad to be on the potter's wheel with y'all. So you guys have an amazing rest of your night. Thank you all who have tuned in and listened for tuning in. If you place questions in the comments, we will answer you as soon as we see the comments. If you have questions about how to get into one of their anthologies or how to use one of their services, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. As you see in the comments, there is a link to the class, How to Write and Publish Your Book for Free. Take advantage of it. It has the templates that you'll need for an Amazon book for the 6x9, 8x10, etc. That was just dropped to give you a little head start. I wish you all much success and have an amazing night.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me see. Hold on. stuff.